Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor, bringing you another video on how to raise your vibration so you can live your best life. Let's talk today about the name of our creator. I think there's a lot of opinions around what certain words mean, who should use them, who should not, and I would love to dive into, determine, and share with you my personal opinion on what all of this means, what we should and shouldn't do. So before I do that, I want to share with you, though, it is amazing to be able to say that the New Earth Construction Team community is open. We had our first event. Of course, it was phenomenal to get to know people, to see real faces, to have real conversations, to be reminded that we are not alone in this and that we are together, the founding members of the New Earth Construction Team. It is such an honor and a privilege to be blessed with and graced with the opportunity to hold space for the beautiful people in this community, not only here on this YouTube channel, but many coming from all sorts of different places all around the world, all with different skill sets and gifts, and all with the same desire to create heaven on earth. So if you are interested in a community, healing the trauma that holds you back from your purpose, so that you can manifest abundance, essentially, right? Our traumas keep us from understanding our gifts and our purpose is the path to abundance. So if you are looking to manifest abundance, to heal your blocks that hold you back from your purpose, the New Earth Construction Team community is the place to be. There's a link below to join. All right, so let's dive in. What is the best name for God, source, divine, creator, universe? I often say that a rose by any other name still smells as sweet. And yet I have had, sort of the question as a coach, as a mentor, as a person who is highly attuned and sensitive to what matters to you. There's an understanding that has been desiring to come through. And so that's what this video is all about. Let's digging into the names. What do we call it? And how do we address it? And what is the appropriate way to do so? Right. So in an effort to be all encompassing in my sessions, in my trainings with my clients, I will go to the length of saying all the names. I will say God, source, divine, creator, universe. I will say he, she, it, they, them, because I want to communicate that it is not really about the term. And many times, of course, the mind is what creates the illusion, the separation, the veil, the Maya. And so if I say the word God and someone has such resistance to that, then they are shut down and they are not open to or able to receive the healing and the wisdom and the miracle that is a perspective shift when their mind says, I don't accept that, or I know that already, or whatever the belief in the mind is, it is a block. And so we could also call it the all, the one, I am, Om, consciousness, pure potentiality, the quantum field. Others may prefer to call it Allah, the Almighty, Brahman, Haman, yes, Satnam or Ku, right? These are different names, different religions. And the beautiful thing is, when I did this research, I was able to really determine and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the vast majority, whether they call it God or Brahman or Satnam or Ku or Allah, they are pointing to the supreme creator, the supreme deity, right? But there still was more. There's still more searching, eking, wanting to come through. That's interesting. Aching, I think, is the word that's trying to come through there. And so I dug deeper in what do these names mean? What is their origin? Where do they come from? What came first? Things of that nature. And so what I discovered was I'd never even heard of Zoroastrianism. Sure, I'm not saying that right, but I apologize if that's your religion and you are offended. Please know that that is not my intention. But that is one of the oldest surviving religions. There is a debate whether that or Islam came first, but some will say that it is older than Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. And what they used for the name God was Ara Mazda, which means wise Lord. And the founder of this religion, Zoroaster, was given a vision of a supreme being And he then began teaching that there is only one source of creation, one God to worship. In many other religions, in other religions, I won't say many, but one has as many as 920 names for God. And of course, this made me think of the 10 Commandments that was brought down by Moses. And the third commandment said, "Thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain." And we look at the Latin root for vain, it means empty or meaningless. And I heard someone make that statement, to not make the name meaningless or empty. And that's what really struck me. That's what caused this desire to understand what is the right way to address the all, the I am, Om. And what does it mean to make a name meaningless, right? Does that even suggest that there is a right name? And that's what some would believe. Others would say it means not to swear or curse. And it's interesting because in that time when Moses was bringing down the 10 Commandments, he asked, "Who shall I tell them sent me?" And what he heard in response was, "Tell them, I am that I am." And to me, so far in the names that I've dug into, this one seems to resonate the most, because it's almost as if it is the thing that cannot be named. I forget the name of the book that starts that way. I think it was Lao Tzu that said that. It's nameless, it's formless, it is a concept, and it is not something tangible that can be named. And yet we find that the word God is used most in biblical teachings. When you look at the original translations, God was never used in the ancient Judeo-Christian scriptures. Not in Hebrew, not in Aramaic, not in Greek or Latin. Gretton, that's a double win there. It's interesting though, because the term God actually dates back to Old English. And of course, the meaning, supreme being or deity. Now, the challenge there was that it came later. It appears to be relatively new in the research. And it again, was not part of the original Hebrew text. So just to quote a few researchers here, according to the best efforts of linguists and researchers, the most common theory is that the root of the present word God is the Sanskrit word hu, which means to call upon, invoke, or implore. The Sanskrit word huta is an epithet of Indra, which was one of the first gods of the Vedic religion. Others trace it to pai, gu, which means to pour, or to poured from the root, to pour or pour a libation. The source of the Greek kian, to pour, also in the phrase kihit, Gaia, which means poured earth, which actually would reference a burial ground or burial mound. And then in that sense, they also see Zeus. So you could see where the term God references multiple deities. It is not synonymous with one creator. And so that's where there may be question around that term. What all that says to me that is that the word God refers to multiple deities. Now, and that's in its origin. That is not necessarily, and we'll get to this in a minute, but I think there's a question of what's in your heart. What is your intention? Because at the end of the day, your intention really supports the outcome of what you are intending to do. So again, it creates that question, does it make the name meaningless? The word God has rubbed many people the wrong way due to its abuse of power by some organized religions over the course of history. There is a connotation to that. There's an association that, again, causes people to shut off. And yet, is it true that a rose by any other name still smells as sweet? And so for me, I tend to use whatever term causes the least resistance for the client, but yet at the same time, I'm looking for alignment. So again, feeling urged to dig deeper. I dug into, in Judaism and Christianity, the first name given still in the same story with Moses, it was in the book of Exodus where the name Yahweh was offered. Now, and I'll get to this in a second. I don't want to jump ahead. So we'll just say that Yahweh is described to mean he who causes to come into existence. It is he who creates. And that comes from Exodus 6:3, if you want to look that up. The original name was the neutral gender name, though. However, the context was given later in, again, translation. The original Hebrew name for the translation is a 4-letter name, also known as the Tetragrammaton, which I also find interesting because if you look at the etymology of Tetragrammaton, it just means 4-letter name, but yet it has been very directly linked to the name of the creator, right? The 4 Hebrew letters are Yod He Vahe, or Yod He Wahe. Depends on, you'd have to ask someone who speaks the language for correction on that one. But if it sounds like Yahweh in English. And what is interesting is that it stems from the Hebrew Aramaic root. It's spelled HWY, right? Hey, fall, which means to fall, become, or come into existence. The ancient equivalent would be Elohim. So each letter of Yahweh has its own meaning. This is interesting. So if you were to say the symbols, and this is where it's complex, the word is written in Hebrew as a symbol, and those symbols have sounds. Those sounds, when spelled out, look like vowels or a grouping of letters, right? So I'm sorry, there are no vowels. It looks like groupings of letters. So we would spell Yod as Y-O-D, but really it's just the sound that that symbol is making, right? And Yod means the spark of all creation, the beginning and the finish, omnipresence. Hey, breath of Yahweh, breathing in and out. It even sounds like breath, right? Hey, as you breathe it. And that's why some would say that the name Yahweh, it's a more of a sound than it is a written word. And so this is where we get into the complexities of the nuances of trying to describe something that cannot be described, a thing that cannot be named, right? So again, hey, the breath, breathing in and out, fully alive in him, in it, I think it would be more appropriate. The breath of Yahweh in me frames intangible evidence. I think this really resonated for me because it's framing the intangible, right? It's again trying to name the thing that cannot be named. And then it's Yod He Wah He. So the He is repeated. So the last portion to be explained would be the way. You could, some spell it V-A-V, some spell it W-A-W. It is the Wah sound, which to me seems more like a W than a V, but again, up to interpretation. And that means the establishment of word on earth. So think about grounding, making real, right? Heaven and earth connection, ascending and descending. And I find it so fascinating the way energy moves. It is both ascending and descending. So in this explanation, you can find so much meaning around what is trying to be named, right? So it's important to remember that the Hebrew language was written, it was in written form, largely vowelless. It was not meant for being spoken, it was meant for being read. And that's very interesting because what that means is it wasn't until much later when they add the vowel sounds so that it could be read out loud. But that was not done until thousands of years later from the original text. So as with any text, whether it's the Bible, whether it's any religious text, it is really important to remember that these books have been written and interpreted and translated by men. And I don't mean masculine men, but I mean by humans. And human error is inevitable. When you're in business, it is guaranteed that at some point throughout a process, an error will be made. There is no such thing as perfect human production. That our output will always be flawed inherently, and that's okay. But it also means it is an excuse or a hall pass, a permission slip to not cling to the dogma of what the words say. And this is where I started to really open up to the reassurance that a rose by any other name still does smell as sweet, that it is about the intention that your creator knows your heart, right? That no one person can say what is right or wrong. We have many different religions, many different names for God, and we have been given the gift of discernment to know what is right because truth resonates in the body. We have an emotional guidance system that if you sit there and you tell yourself, I am bad, I am wrong, I am broken, there's something wrong with me, I'm just an accident, then you will know by the way your body responds that tension, that turning in, the clenching, the feeling of sickness in your stomach says that is not right. Your emotions are there to guide you and let you know you just had an inaccurate thought. And so if you use a term for the supreme creator that doesn't feel right to you, then that's okay. Just be sure that you're not filtering a story through your decision-making process, not clinging to a dogma, not clinging to a belief or something someone else told you, but really, really listening to the tuning fork of your body, looking for that full body yes that says, this is how I want to reference my creator, right? And so then it begs the question, right? One last time, what does it mean to make his name meaningless? And I really started to think about when someone's name dropping, right? If someone goes, oh, I was having dinner with Brad Pitt the other day, right? It means they're bolstering themselves. They're trying to show how amazing they are, that they are using that name for something meaningless, for their ego. So what is meaningless? Things that are not really real are what are meaningless. So the ego is not real. When we ask ourselves what is real, we can think about what will be here in 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years. Not this chair, not this body, not this house, not this town, not my shoes, not my reputation, not how I see myself. None of that is real. The only thing that is real is consciousness, is the one true creator. So to use the name in a meaningless way would be to say, I teach you something because I am so great, and therefore you should follow me. And I've elevated myself in the name of the creator from an egoic place, from a meaningless place, that I have deceived and led astray and likely ultimately harmed others in the name of the creator. So I again will reiterate that no one person can know what is right or wrong. This is more of a fun exploration for my own curiosity that I enjoy sharing with you. I will take away from it what is right for me, and I encourage you to do the same. That from my perspective, a rose by any other name still smells as sweet. That you cannot escape consciousness because it is in you. It is you. It is living you. It knows you intimately and knows your heart and knows your intentions. And that, at the end of the day, is what really matters. All right. I love you, my friends. I will see you on the next video. I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day. Take care and namaste. And don't forget, join us on the New Earth Construction team. All right. Take care.